This podcast is a member of the Place to Be Nation family. Visit us at placetobenation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
Welcome to the NBA Team Podcast. It's going to be the finale, but not our finale. It is the finale of the NBA season that's felt like a bit of a trough.
About time. It's about time.
I am one of your co-hosts, Andrew Reese. I'm joined by Adam Murray. Adam Murray, no, I'm not trying to hurry up. I'm glad we got our pageantries in and our introductions in. But yeah, the finals is finally here. Literally, finally. It did feel like the season was longer than it should have been, or it felt like it was longer than it should have been, especially the regular season with all the tanking, which they reportedly are going to try to solve with the lottery reform. We'll see about that. We'll talk about that another day. But today we're talking about the teams that actually tried, and holy cow, did we have a couple of teams that not only tried, they excelled.
Well, let's just start with, the team in the East who we had said from day one, has paid their way to be in this position, as kind of that's where it looks like the NBA is going these days, is you have the window and you have to either pay to be in that window.
Well, it's two avenues. You either draft very well and get lucky with trades, and you have an assembly of talent before the second apron kicks in and your owner has to pay a bajillion-dollar tax bill to keep the team together, which is actually the scenario Oklahoma City is going to be in this summer. Or you just blow past the second apron and you pay your way through.
Yeah. And like you said, if you draft lucky and you trade well, you still have a window before that dreaded double tax comes in. And just quickly, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but this is the overall vibe I've gotten from the layperson, the average non-NBA fan who only tunes in for the playoffs and doesn't really not deep into the woods like we are.
Mm-hmm.
It seems to be an overwhelming sense of relief that Oklahoma City is not in, because they are not a likable team. And I've noticed with the Western Conference Finals, and having to answer a lot more questions to a lot more different people, they're like, so SGA, he's the MVP. He's the best player in the league. I don't like watching him. He is not. I'm like, I understand. They do not like flopping basketball, which was the same problem we had with Harden and Westbrook, a previous basketball generation. It seems to be like, again, a sense of relief that Oklahoma City and their style of play is not in the finals again.
So
am I wrong?
No, I feel like, here's the thing though. I feel like there's one exception to this, or maybe a couple of exceptions to this, where we had superstar legendary players who were the star players on championship teams, dynastic teams. And I don't want to say that the general public gave them a pass because they were so likable or they were so charming or their style of play was so exciting. Michael Jordan, Shaquille O'Neal, Steph Curry, where when they win championships, even though the team doesn't always have the best intent, like they use tactics. Every team needs luck. I've said that a million times. We'll talk about on our finals preview how much luck both of these teams had, because they did. But you also need to induce tactics. You have to do things strategically. You have to push it to the razor's edge in order to gain an advantage. Every championship team has done that. Every championship team, if you wear your tinfoil hat, has gotten some sort of an advantage. But I feel like the pass is given to a lot of these teams over the years that have gotten superstars that are likable, that are marketable, and that are, they have singularity. Like when you see the name, you're like, oh, I want to watch that. So I think what happened is, and the Oklahoma City Thunder, yes, they flop a lot. Especially Shea. There was even an article that Tom Haberstroh had written where he literally showed a percentage in the playoffs, how many times he falls when he takes shots, and his percentage versus other stars was way higher than the rest. So yes, I even think Shea, in a quote right before Game 7, he literally said something like, I'm not going to change the way I am, which basically means if you don't like it, that's too bad because it wins. And that's the right way to go. If you're Shea, why abandon what you do?
Oh, of course.
And it's conducive to the league. We're in a league that's faster. The possessions are quicker. When the possessions are faster, the defenses get confused more easily. Switches are sloppier. And if you can get people off balance and off rhythm, yes, you try to lean in to draw fouls. You try to bump into them. I think it's fair. And I'll ask you this. I do think it's fair to say that the thing that makes the Thunder unbearable for some teams, and also every defending champion gets this stigma. Even the Warriors did, where they're the champions. They go on another big run and they have 60 plus wins and they look like they're going to repeat and they become the villains because
they get that's
what happens to every. That's what happens to every championship. I really want to, and I could be wrong about this because I loved the Bulls as a kid. But I had a feeling that Michael and Scotty got a pass where nobody really hated the Bulls. I know the Knicks did. I know the Jazz did, for obvious reasons. But I didn't feel like the nation hated the Bulls. They liked the fact that the Bulls won. The Lakers became villains. Kobe and Shaq became big villains. But Shaq was so likable that sometimes people were just like, it's just the big Aristotle. With Shea, yeah, he's not a marketable guy. He's not a guy who's going to be on your Wheaties box all the time. He's an incredible player. I thought in the game 7 that they lost, he was amazing. He did everything he possibly could to win the game. Chet Holmgren was a no-show. Jalen Williams was hurt. AJ Mitchell was hurt. They had
that's what came back the difference. The difference was last year they were all healthy. Mm-hmm. This year, Jalen Williams being out kind of it ruined that team.
I want to finish my point about the villainry, the villainousness of the way the Thunder play. The thing is, I think my theory is, and I don't think we'll ever get the truth until much later, is that I think Jalen Williams had a hamstring tear in training camp. He tried to rehab it without surgery, and this is the result. It's just going to be. It was hard for him to play on it. He even tried to play in game 6 and he looked slow. He looked like he hadn't done cardio in a month. And they shut him down for game 7. He's probably going to have to get surgery on his hamstring, to be honest with you. And AJ must have had a really bad calf strain. Also, remember, he's got a very low salary, so why risk it? I know it's the NBA. I know it's the conference finals, but if I'm AJ Mitchell, I'm on $3 million a year. Am I going to go out there and risk tearing my Achilles or my ACL because I have a calf strain? I wouldn't have done that either. So I think it was smart of him to not play either, or get cleared. But anyways, I think the Thunder were an amazing team. They were the best defense the whole year. They had the best record. They did everything right in terms of the way that the league calls things. The problem is, if you look at the trends of the way it's officiated, in the way that the style is, the way that what gets rewarded in terms of depth versus star, big 3-headed monster teams, you have to ride that as close to the razor's edge as you possibly can. That's what the Thunder do. And it's not likable. It's not something that you can put on a poster, but it wins. And I feel like the New England Patriots were that way too, in that even though they had Tom Brady, who was a superstar, they won because it was a team effort and they skirted the line a little bit. I don't want to say the Spurs were like the antithesis of that, because I felt like the Spurs tried similar tactics to what the Thunder did. The difference is that the Spurs have arguably the most recognizable new face in professional sports in Victor Wembenyama. Mm-hmm. He's not a budding superstar. He is a world superstar.
Yes, they have their marketing. So now let's get into our finals preview, as you say.
So it's aliens. It's basically aliens versus humans. Yes.
Well, it's basically the Jeremy Sohan revenge.
Yeah,
tour.
Me and a friend were laughing about that, about how one way or another Jeremy Sohan's going to get a ring. He can't get 2 though. I don't think he can. But anyways, let me just talk. I do want to talk a little bit about the journey. I don't want to go way too far into it because we did preview the conference finals. It went kind of the way we talked about, by the way. I think we both said it went 7. I even thought all up to game 7, the day of, I was like, man, I think the Thunder are going to win this at home. And the Spurs just pushed it out. Like they shot the ball well. The Oklahoma State turned the ball over a lot. Again, the non-Shea stars just did not show up, or they were hurt. And that's what kind of came and got him. But I felt like the Spurs have been a great team all year long.
And as you know, as I usually say, the team goes as Wemby goes, a team goes as Jokic goes, a team goes as your big number one as Curry goes. Curry went, that was it. Jokic sort of stumbled, that was it. Wemby stayed healthy, which was the only issue going into the season. Is I bet against his health, and because he had that big, was it the clot or the
he had a blood clot in
last year.
And then
I was like, oh, and they had this injury the first year too. So I'm like, oh, he can't stay healthy the whole season, but he did. And then with his transcendence force, there we have it. Okay, back to you.
The thing is, like the series against the Thunder, it's going to probably be known as, I think it's going to be on par with like when the Warriors played the Thunder in 2016, when the Warriors played the Rockets in 2018, it's going to be remembered, even the Lakers and the Kings, if I dare say that, where people are just going to be like, man, the finals was good, but goddamn, that Thunder Spurs series was epic. It's going to have big ratings on NBC because they all aired on NBC, but it felt weird because the Wembenyama had that unbelievably explosive game one where the Thunder's first defensive look that they threw at him just didn't work, where they just singled him. They one-on-one covered him. And they went to a different one, got him in foul trouble. And then Wemby would bounce back, have a really big game. But if you look at his numbers, yes, he was dominant. He scored. He made his threes, which is something that he worked on this season versus his first two seasons, which I think has been a wrinkle that has been really hard for people to stop, on top of all the other things he does, like rebounding and shot blocking and erasing mistakes on defense. But the thing is, you can see in the box score, like Wemby has a bad game, he adjusts, he does a little better on the next game, and then the defense adjusts again. Now they're going to be playing a Knicks team that defensively in the regular season, they were, I would say, like top 10, maybe, but I would say not like an elite defense. However, they have played like an elite defense in the playoffs on the Eastern Conference side. So it'll be interesting to see what the New York defense tries to do to Wemby. Maybe they might cover him with Josh Hart. Because I don't know if having Towns covering him is the best option. You don't want a slower guy with a wrist injury like Mitchell Robinson being stuck to cover him, because Mitchell's not going to play that many minutes.
So that means sounds like you're going to go for the Spurs for the upset championship.
Oh no, I mean, there's more to it than that. But what I think one thing that will be important when you compare the two is how are the minutes without your star? Well, without Brunson, they've been good. When Brunson sits, they've had Miles McBride, Landry Shamet. He basically turned into Steph Curry in the playoffs for some reason. I don't know how. And they've recovered nicely. The Spurs, when they don't have Wemby and they play Luke Cornett, the plus minus has been bad. And I wonder if the Knicks are going to feast on that. But the Spurs guards are so good. And they're big and strong. Like, I did not realize how strong Dylan Harper was until I saw him in the Minnesota and the OKC series, where he was just like bullying Ayo Dosunmu and Jared McCain and throwing them to the ground and doing spin moves and hitting step back. That's when I realized, damn, this is why he was the number 3 pick in the draft. Yeah. And Castle, turnover machine. We've said this all year. This is one of his problems. Brunson also had that problem too, turning the ball over. But Castle, it's an epidemic. It's a situation where people, like, you could see the Thunder digging in the moment he penetrated because they knew he was going to lose the ball because he's sloppy with the ball. He's an incredible player, though, and they need him. They need a surprise contributor like a Julian Champagnie in Game 7 against the Thunder. The thing about the Knicks is that they don't really have a surprise contributor because everybody is playing well.
Well, they have a defined rotation, a defined role, defined everything.
Their ball movement's fantastic. They have 3 guys that average 5 assists game or more in the playoffs. Towns especially. Towns is basically like, I'm just going to pass the ball if I'm doubled, and it's worked really well for them. And also Bridges. Bridges has shot the ball well, which is very, very important for them, because if you have Bridges that's shooting the ball well, then the only guy that you can hope will miss his shots is Josh Hart, who shoots over 50% from the field.
So then, are we going Knicks then? Since what are we? Which way are we leaning?
Let me ask you what you think, how you think it's going to go.
Oh, I'm going to go with the Knicks in this one.
Why is that?
Just they seem. I mean, the analytics said Cleveland should have won, right?
Well, offensively, they should have matched with them.
No,
yeah, that was a really, really
dumb quote.
That quote will always. Here's the thing about Kenny Atkinson. No, I don't. I'm glad he didn't get fired because he wouldn't have deserved it anyway. I think Harden and Donovan Mitchell like him. We'll talk about that in the postmortem for Cleveland, but that is a quote that he will never live down. That, oh yeah, analytically where you should be tied. It's like, yeah, but you're not. You're losing.
That
like, I mean, if my aunt had male parts, he should be my uncle. Like that it's like one of those things. But I felt like Cleveland had a great offense leading into that, and New York just outshined them. And it's going to be interesting because the defense for San Antonio has been extremely good throughout the playoffs. I know they give up threes sometimes. You saw that with the Thunder. You know, they would play this kind of wonky zone with Wembenyama in the middle. Well, look who gets open. Jared McCain and Alex Caruso, and they start hitting threes. The other Jalen Williams. So someone's going to be open. I mean, that's just the sacrifice you make when you got a guy like Wemby who roams. If he roams and he's your defensive pillar, the offense is going to tilt the other way to the other weak side. And that's going to be the trick. Can the New York offense figure out quickly enough where the hole is on the defensive end?
No, I'm gonna go Knicks in this one.
I'll go with the Spurs, but I think it would go 7 games. I mean, the Spurs, I think, would have to finish it off at home. I don't think they can go to New York and finish off the Knicks because they just play too well when they get on a roll. The Knicks, they just kind of boom you. They get on these. The thing about the Spurs too that was weird in the Thunder series, they did this to Minnesota too, but the difference is that I don't think obviously Minnesota wasn't as good as Oklahoma City. The Spurs get off to great starts. They get on these starts where they go on like a 15-0 run, and you're like, oh my God, like this game might be over already. Against Minnesota, it was, but against the Thunder, not so easy. For the Knicks, that's not going to work. Like if they go up 12-1 to start the game, if they start like counting their chickens, it's like, oh man, you are really in for a treat, because the Knicks can go on a big run all of a sudden in the third quarter, in the fourth quarter. They're very, very, the thing that I know it sounds crazy because it's the New York Knicks in the NBA Finals. It's something that Madison Avenue and the NBA has been wanting for 26 years. You know, Stephen A. Smith. It's funny because I don't hear Smith talking too much about how great the Knicks are. It's almost like he only talks about the Knicks when they suck. And it's I just find it ironic because he's not a real fan. But anyways, the thing is, what I appreciate about the Knicks is that they are very resilient and their style of play is very fluid. Like when people watch the Knicks, I feel like people watch them and they're like, yeah, that's what good basketball looks like.
All right.
You know, the thing is, I do think it's tough to go against them because they're playing so well. Talking about New York, I'll just go with the team that has the home court. But because I don't know if everyone knows this, San Antonio has the home court. They both, the Spurs and the Thunder, both had better records than the Knicks. The Knicks were a 3 seed. They have been dominant in the Eastern Finals, but they were not the top seed in the East. You know, it has to be factored in how well they're playing though in the playoffs. It is like a notch, well above a notch above, like the way they played in the regular season.
Yep, no arguments here, and
it's going to be a very entertaining finals, and the ratings will be higher, of course. And I don't think we have to sit here and endlessly look at numbers and look at Sports Media Watch of like who's got the best. Like the ratings are going to be gold for the NBA and ESPN, but I think there's going to be a lot of intrigue about this is Wembenyama's first one. How will he respond? He's a very unique individual, and not just physically. His mindset's different. He's also a very driven player. You could tell, even though he's a young superstar, he's not a terribly selfish guy. and he's a very, very motivated guy. You could tell like when they lost some of those games, he took them to heart. And I'm just interested to see how driven he is in a championship series. And the Knicks haven't been in a championship series since 1999 when they got actually they played the Knicks or the Spurs, and the Spurs beat them easily with Duncan and Robinson. Clearly a whole different generation now, but it's going to be a good series. Is this the one that I envisioned? I thought the Thunder would play the Knicks when we
Well, we
started the
knew
season.
even before the way the season went, we knew it would be anybody had a chance in the West. It was just a murderer's row of that top six, really. And you could have made arguments for any of them in the end of, oh, yeah, they could totally do it. But here we are. Finally, we have a finals that people will watch and hopefully enjoy. And anything else? Are you good?
I think it's going to be I think it's just going to be interesting to see where Oklahoma City goes from there. Because I'm not going to say that everyone's going to talk about the Thunder in the finals. They're going to be too obsessed with talking about the New York market and Wembenyama and all that stuff. But there's always a response to a team that wins a championship and they lose, they just fall short. There's always a response. There's always either an addition made or a big swing made, and it's just going to be interesting. For the Knicks, even if they don't win the championship and it's a close series, that's not going to be enough to convince New York's general management. Yeah, I don't think this town thing is working. No, it clearly works. So maybe this whole run is convinced them like we need to just stand pat with what we have. And if we have to pay a little extra to keep Bridges, to keep Anunoby, to keep Towns, so be it. And you won't see a Giannis trade, or you won't see a LeBron go there for the mid-level exception type of thing. Like maybe they're just going to keep up with what they have. The Spurs are in a really weird position because they have cap space. They actually can do things.
That the Spurs we will get to later. Just the quick note on your Thunder. I meant to say it's a big difference. They have 15 players under contract, and Chet Holmgren and Jalen Williams maxes kick in. So it's a lot different when your salaries are combined 20 million to a combined 80 million.
And Jalen has rookie supermax. Chet Holmgren has rookie supermax because
it wasn't built in. It's not because
he was second team All NBA though.
But it's not in his. It wasn't in the contract. It was just a standard.
It wasn't
max.
In the language of the deal that he had signed. And I'm pretty sure that the reason why Sam Presti did that is because he had to sign the same rookie max deal to Chet and Jalen in the same offseason. And he knew, like, if I give a poison pill to both of them, there's no way we can afford it. So that's
they
actually
might not be able to afford it
by
now,
Presti.
But
they can. And again, we'll talk about that when we get to them, but they have team options on a couple of guys that were very important to their team in Hartenstein and Dort. But, and then you can swing things involving Case and Wallace, draft picks to try to get a Jan. There's things you can do. But it's going to be interesting. The Spurs, I would say, are ahead of schedule. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, everyone said they should take one more year off just to get everything right, but they have it now. So strike while the window's hot and while everyone's under rookie contracts. And because once you give, Wemby his obvious supermax, and then you have to pay Castle and then Harper, there is no money left. And then you can't keep this team together again. And as that's the way the NBA is now, but all right.
Fox has been better. I felt like I could see in the game 7, okay, his health's coming back. I could definitely see with Dylan Harper, his health is back. So that's another thing. I'm glad that both teams are for the most part healthy going into the game.
Sounds good to me. So, all right, for Andrew Reich, I'm Adam Murray. Have a good one.
Take care.